This video was brought to you by Brilliant. Today, Donald Trump accuses the British Labour Party of foreign interference, Austria's far right is denied the chance to form a government, and India and China seemingly resolve their border conflict. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Wednesday the 23rd of October, 2024. The Donald Trump campaign has accused the UK's ruling Labour Party of blatant foreign interference in the US presidential election, after Labour volunteers travelled to the United States to help campaign for Kamala Harris. Trump's campaign filed a complaint with the Federal Election Committee, or FEC, and called for an investigation into, quote, apparent illegal foreign national contributions made by the Labour Party of the United Kingdom and accepted by Harris for president. A UK Labour staffer said in a now-deleted LinkedIn post that nearly 100 current and former party staffers were heading to the US to volunteer on the Democratic Party campaigns in key swing states, ahead of the November 5th election. Trump's complaint says that the interference is occurring in plain sight, citing the LinkedIn post and other media reports, including a Washington Post report, that Labour strategists had offered advice to Harris's team, following Labour's own victory earlier this year. Now, federal law says that while foreign nationals may not make contributions or expenditure related to a campaign, they can participate in campaign activities as an uncompensated volunteer. UK Prime Minister and Labour leader Keir Starmer said that the Labour volunteers had gone over pretty much every election, and that they were doing it in their spare time as volunteers, rather than in their capacity working for Labour. As such, Labour says that it's not organising or funding the trips itself. In fact, Labour weren't the only party whose members have headed over to volunteer on the Harris campaign. Former Conservative Cabinet Minister Robert Buckland has spent time knocking on doors for her in the northeastern United States. Conversely, Reform UK's leader Nigel Farage has notably campaigned for Donald Trump, so it's not uncommon for Brits to volunteer on American campaigns, and it's something that's been going on in elections going back decades. One Trump ally, Newsmax CEO Chris Ruddy, even said that it was more of a perception problem than a legal one. So however strange it might be for an American to open the door to a British person telling them how to vote, the most notable part of this story is not the campaigning itself, but the potential fallout between the UK's Labour Party and, should he win, President Donald Trump. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who met with Trump last month, said that he'll work with whoever wins the election, and insists that he has a good relationship with Trump that he can maintain. However, this spat threatens to undo the efforts that Labour have made to build links with Trump's team, and could mark an awkward start to the relationship between the two leaders. Whether it's a grudge that's held or quickly forgotten remains to be seen, but it could prove crucial. There's more on the way, but remember to subscribe and ring the bell for more daily briefing tomorrow. Plus, if you want to support the channel, like Loki Lord, then consider joining the TLDR Daily membership program for just $1.99. Austria's President Alexander Van der Bellen has tasked the ruling Conservatives, not the victorious far right, with forming a government following last month's elections. President Van der Bellen said that he had given a mandate to the incumbent Chancellor Karl Nehammer to form a coalition government to lead Austria. Now, crucially, Nehammer's Conservative People's Party came second to the far-right Freedom Party, which scored 29% in the September parliamentary election. While Van der Bellen acknowledged that it had traditionally been the case that the president gives the party with the most votes the mandate to form a government, he said that he did not want to do it this time because no other party would work with the FPO, an anti-immigration, Russian-friendly party led by Herbert Kickl. Van der Bellen, himself a former Green leader, said that the parliamentary elections are not a race in which the party who crosses the finish line first automatically gets to form a government, adding that if a party wants to govern alone, it must clear the 50% hurdle, which the FPO did not do. Chancellor Nehammer of the OVP will enter into negotiations with the centre-left Social Democrats, but the two parties would only have a one-seat majority even if they were to partner together, so they might well look for a third partner, like the Liberal NEOS party or the Greens. Now, the FPO's leader, Herbert Kickl, reacted to the news by telling supporters that it may feel like a slap in the face, but I promise you, the final word has not yet been spoken. Up next, let's move to Asia, where frosty relationships between the two major superpowers in the region, China and India, may be warming up after Beijing and New Delhi signed a deal over their disputed border in the western Himalayas. Now, the two neighbours, who fought a brief but bloody war against each other in 1962, share a 2,100-mile border. Despite a 1996 agreement which prohibits the use of guns or explosives near the border, in 2020, troops on either side were engaged in a deadly standoff on the disputed section of border. This clash plunged ties between the two to their lowest point in decades. Then, in September of 2021, China accused India of firing shots at its troops, while India retaliated and accused China of firing into the air. Troops then clashed again a year and a bit later. Yesterday, though, an announcement by India's foreign minister revealed that the two countries had reached a deal to end a military standoff, 4 years after the deadly clash in 2020. Now, the deal hasn't yet been made public, so only a few details are known, but it's basically aimed at disengaging troops and allowing the resumption of patrols along the disputed border. However, experts have cautioned against concluding that this will lead to a deeper thaw in tensions. The agreement doesn't specify that it would mean the withdrawal of tens of thousands of additional soldiers stationed in these regions. The deal also doesn't explain whether the pact covers the entire border or just the hotspots that have seen clashes. Nevertheless, the deal will no doubt ease tensions ahead of the BRICS summit in Russia, in which both China and India will be participating. Sticking with news from Asia, South Korea has warned that it will consider supplying weapons to Ukraine in response to North Korea allegedly dispatching troops to Russia. While South Korea has a policy of not supplying weapons to countries actively engaged in conflicts, the government statement was apparently made to pressure Russia against bringing in North Korean troops for its war in Ukraine, with some 1,500 North Korean soldiers having already reportedly arrived in Russia. The main fear of South Korean officials here is that Moscow will reward North Korea for its support by giving them sophisticated weapons tech that could boost and advance the North's nuclear and missile programs. In fact, alarm bells have been set off in South Korea over the past 2 years, as North Korea and Russia have sharply boosted their cooperation over this period. North Korea-Russia relations jumped to an all-time high in June, after the pair signed a major defense deal that requires both countries to provide military assistance if either is attacked. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said that in the coming days that NATO will get to the bottom of whether there are indeed North Korean troops in Russia. If proven to be the case, Rutte said that it would mark a significant escalation in the conflict. But finally, in some uplifting news, a Chinook salmon has become the first fish to migrate upriver from California to Oregon since 1912, just months after the removal of 4 dams on the Klamath River to ensure fish passage. The Chinook salmon, a migratory species, traveled some 230 miles from the Pacific Ocean up the Klamath River through California and into Oregon, where it will spawn eggs in fresh water, and the life cycle will continue. The Oregon Department for Fish and Wildlife, which is working on the repopulation of species like the Chinook salmon in Oregon's Klamath Basin, said that the team were ecstatic when they first saw the fish. Now, what's something that the TLDR audience have in common? Well, they're willing to learn something new every day, and while our videos are a pretty good start, a lot of the stuff we talk about can seem pretty complicated, especially when we dive into analytics and detailed data. Luckily, there's a fun and easy way to learn more, which doesn't cost thousands of dollars or take years of schooling. That's because Brilliant is the best way to learn by doing, with thousands of interactive lessons in maths, data analysis, programming, and AI. Each lesson is filled with hands-on problem solving, broken down into accessible chunks designed around your busy schedule. That means that by spending just a few minutes a day, you can accumulate new knowledge over time in an actually fun way, and you'll feel the satisfaction that comes with bettering yourself and staying ahead. For instance, perhaps you promised yourself that this year you'll learn more programming skills, but you've just not had enough time, and the year's now coming to an end. Brilliant's growing number of programming courses are a great way to build the foundations and learn real-world applications with courses on Python, essential coding elements like loops and variables, and even developing your mind to think like a programmer. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/TLDR or scan the QR code on screen. Or you can just click the link in the description. That way you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Thanks for your support, and thanks for watching TLDR.